Somos Global Opportunities, una firma de inmigración canadiense con sede en Toronto, Canadá. Comenzaremos en un minuto. Este live será impartido por la licenciada Mildred Gutiérrez, quien cuenta con más de 11 años de experiencia ejerciendo derecho migratorio canadiense. Además posee las licencias necesarias para asesorar a personas que quieren emigrar a cualquier parte de Canadá, incluso en la provincia de Saskatchewan. A lo largo de su carrera, ha impartido seminarios en diversas instituciones reconocidas de Latinoamérica y el mundo. Hemos tenido el honor de llevar nuestro conocimiento a países como Perú, Chile, Costa Rica, entre otros. Además hemos impartido seminarios enfocados a diversas profesiones como ingenieros, arquitectos, contadores, personal de salud y de educación. Gracias por estar aquí. Estamos listos para comenzar.
Well, thank you everyone for being here today, and thank you for the ones that usually write something in the comments. My name is Luis Garnica. I'm the head of marketing of Global Opportunities. We are a Canadian immigration firm. We are located in Toronto, Canada. Today we're going to be talking about really nice topic. It's about becoming a permanent resident, or becoming a Canadian citizen, sorry. This is the last step that you will need to encounter after you are a PR or permanent resident. Basically, this is the last step that you will be doing when you are in Canada. When you become Canadian citizen, well, you will have your passport and you will have your citizenship from the country you were born and the citizenship for Canada, which is nice. The passport of Canada is one of the passports, the best passports in the world. So I think it's good for you to be looking for or to become a Canadian citizen and do the Canadian citizenship. Anyway, today we have Mildred Gutierrez. She is an immigration consultant and lawyer, Mexican lawyer too. She will tell us about everything you need to know about Canadian citizenship and how to apply, when to apply, how to count all the days that you will need to have in order to apply. So hopefully you guys stay with us, and I'm going to just pass the microphone to Mildred Gutierrez so she can tell us about all the information to become a Canadian citizen. And from there, I will be with you guys at the end.
Hello everyone, this is Mildred from Global Opportunities, and today we are going to be talking about one of the most meaningful milestones for many permanent residents, which is the Canadian citizenship, because this is the last step to finalize everything that we've been doing immigration-wise in Canada. This is the moment we finalize everything. So for some, it is a very important step to take. So today we are going to be discussing requirements, talking about the exam and the key steps to take, some common mistakes within the applications. So becoming a citizen, it's not just about obtaining a new passport. It's about a long-term stability, full integration, the ability to participate completely in Canadian society. And we are going to talk about what you need to qualify, tax obligations, who needs to provide language proof, how the citizenship test is going to work, and what the ceremony looks like with the changes that we've had in the past. And of course, like we said, the most common mistakes in this case. Now, regarding requirements to apply for citizenship, well, you must meet everything, right? It's not just about meeting some of them. You have to meet all the requirements. You have to be a permanent resident. Your status must be valid and clear of any revocation or inadmissibility process. You need to meet the physical requirement. This is crucial. You must have been 1,095 days physically in Canada within the last 5 years. That equals around 3 full years within the country. You have to have filed your taxes. So that means you did file your federal taxes for at least 3 of the last 5 years. The language requirement, of course, if you're between 18 and 54, you do have to take the test. If you're over 55 or there's a specific condition, you don't need to. The CLB that you need to provide is 4, which is very basic, and this could be English or French. Now, you have to make sure that you, of course, eventually, once you submit the application, is complete, you must pass the online exam, which is the citizenship test, and that there is no other prohibition to move forward with your citizenship in this case. Now, you need to make sure that you count your days correctly. Okay, this is where people make most mistakes. You can go into the IRCC website and you can just search IRCC Citizenship Calculator. You can log in. If you don't have a user, create one. It's just very simple thing to do, especially if you travel a lot. If you're somebody that just received your permanent residence and you're already looking forward to apply for citizenship, and because of work or personal various things that can happen, you have to travel a lot, it is something that I really push you to do, because as time goes by, we don't necessarily remember all our trips. They won't necessarily stamp your passport when you left, when you came in. That's not going to happen, but you still are accountable for it. Okay. So in this case, you can, have a log for your trips. That's what I recommend. And if not, then you have to take your time and remember what have you done. Maybe you've never traveled, but there's people that travel a lot. So you have to make sure that you count those days. Some of them are going to count at 100%. That means once you become a permanent resident, the time that you spend in Canada counts 100%. But there are let's call it pre-PR days, when you were a student or maybe a temporary foreign worker and you had your permits. You can count up to 50% of the time, and it can equal 1 year. Okay, so you have to count them. So there's people that don't necessarily have their PR already for 3 years. It's been 2 only, but they're going to count the rest of the time that they spend in Canada, which is good. Now, you can move forward, but you got to make sure that you can account for that with the documents that you will need to provide to make sure that those days can be also recorded within your physical presence. Now, in this case, let's make sure that the time spent away from Canada, you have to make sure that you do not count those days, like vacations, family visits. Okay, there are a few exceptions. You have to check them, like when you're traveling for a specific purpose, or depending on your employment situation, or if you're traveling with somebody that maybe your partner that has a specific position, and this qualifies for that exemption. It may vary. We're just talking about the general. So, but if your case is more specific, then I would definitely make sure that you have an assessment before applying. And this is very important because a lot of people just tend to leave after their permanent residence, or just, go back and forth, and they don't necessarily meet the 1,095 days. But then again, they might also not meet the eligibility requirements to renew that permanent residence. So you have to be careful with that. Yes, you are a permanent resident, and yes, you have most of the benefits, but you still have to provide a certain amount of time to renew that permanent residence or to move forward with the citizenship. So you want to make sure about this. If you're somebody that wants to travel a lot, or somebody that is just expecting, because of a family situation, you want to be able to be away for, considerable amount of time, then I would suggest that you first move on to your citizenship. And once that's done, then you don't have to worry about that anymore. So in this case, about language, which is something that also worries some people, especially people that came through sponsorships, and that in the beginning, they didn't really need to provide any type of language test, or it wasn't required for their application, and in this case it will be. There are cases where you do need to take the test, especially if you're between 18 and 54 years of age. I would suggest to take the CELPIP for the citizenship purposes. There's CELPIP general, and then there's the CELPIP specifically for citizenship. I would suggest to take that because that is, it doesn't have all the bands, and it's much shorter. It's easier. You only need a CLB4, which is super basic in this case. There you have resources there if you want to study. You can book it anywhere in Canada. That's not a problem. So I would suggest to go with that. I mean, the other tests, of course, are available and they're also valid. Maybe you took one or you had one that is still valid, because they're usually valid for around 2 years. So maybe you already have one that it is valid because you took it for, I don't know, other purposes. That's great. You can use that. There are exceptions as well. It may be you studied in Canada a certain diploma or a certain course that, makes a good exception and you don't have to take the test. It really depends, right? So like I said, we're just talking about the general criteria. But if you are over 55 or you're a minor under 18, or there are certain medical exemption cases, sometimes you don't necessarily have to take the test, but you have to make sure that you qualify for that. Or like I said, you have other types of studies that qualify, they make sure that you already speak English or French. Now, in this case, you have to make sure as well that once you start to get your application ready, make sure that you also start getting ready for the citizenship test. Honestly, it's not a big deal, but a lot of people tend to be, leaving these at the end or until they actually tell you the date and you have like 3 days before to study. I wouldn't suggest that. I would suggest to start looking it up. There's a lot of resources online. You can go to the official study guide. It's called Discover Canada. Just Google it. It's called Discover Canada. It's within IRCC. You can download the PDF. You can also access the audio, or you can read it in the website, or you can download it if you have an electronic device and you want to read it that way. It's up to you how you want to do it, but I would suggest to read it, and just make sure that you go through it at least once. Like I said, it's not something that it's very critical in the sense that it's only 20 questions. They're going to ask you to pass at least 75% of them. The format now is online. You have to take it's going to be a virtual exam. Of course, there's a specific scenario and they're going to ask you, make sure that, you're looking at the camera. You're not wondering. There's no other people in there. You're going to have everything checked out. So you don't want to have to do it again. But then again, if everything was fine, but then you didn't pass it, you still have another chance. Okay. So the topics are going to be like history, politics, rights and responsibilities, geography. So like I said, it's not something out of the ordinary. But then again, if you've never looked into it, especially because you came, this tends to happen with people with sponsorships. Like they really didn't, it was another type of thing that they did in their application. So they're sometimes not as familiar with this topics. Everybody's different, but then again, just make sure that you have it. And also, like I said, once you are done with the test, you are going to see that if you passed or not, like it tells you, right? So if you pass, everything's good. And eventually they're going to move forward and they are going to tell you that there is, that your application is ready to move on towards the final step, which is the citizenship ceremony. Now, there's a choice. You can do it in person and you can do it online. Honestly, I would recommend online just for the timing. I've seen that when my clients that request online or virtual citizenship ceremonies, they usually get a faster date, especially if you want to get your passport as soon as possible, because this is just the citizenship, right? Eventually, once you get your citizenship certificate, then you have to move on to processing the passport, and it really depends on your needs, but I would suggest to do it now. The fact that it is an online ceremony doesn't mean that you can be outside of Canada. You have to be in Canada, right? So if for some reason you can't make it, you have to move the date. There's also, when they send you the information, they will send you all the details in case you need to move your ceremony because of whatever reason that's deemed acceptable, right? So make sure you checked into that. And you are going to need a set of documents that will need to be presented, whether it's in person or a virtual ceremony. In this case, of course, for a virtual ceremony, you're going to need a camera. And at least, I think with a virtual ceremony, the fact that everybody can be there, that's good. In person, sometimes it's still limited to the people you can take with you. So make sure to check into that. Again, it's just a preference, or maybe it has to do with your availability as well. So in this case, we need to make sure that when we are presenting an application from the beginning, now it's an online application. You don't need to submit it physically. It's an online, there's a specific portal for it. And you, of course, are going to need your PR card. If you've had several, then several, or the information for it. Your current and previous passports, because you need the information there, and you also need some documentation provided. You are going to put in detail your travel history. Make sure that you have your documents with CRA, which is your notice of assessments. In this case, you can, again, go into your CRA account, which you can do it online. If you don't have it, you can start working on it. The language proof, if it's applicable to your to you, and of course the IRCC forms, which are going to be there in the portal as well. And in this case, like I said, there are several mistakes which are common, which is not counting the days properly. That is one of the things that is not necessarily the best idea, because you want to make sure that you meet the requirement of the 1,095 days. Okay, so you don't want to skip things. Not filing taxes. There's a lot of people that don't do it, and then they have to do them all together when they want to apply, and you have to, go back and make sure everything's okay. It takes time. CRA doesn't send documents right away, so make sure that you have everything in order. If you are somebody that's looking forward to applying to citizenship, I would suggest to keep track of everything, so that by the time that you are eligible for it, then you don't have anything to worry about. You will have everything in place to move forward. Of course, you don't want to use outdated forms, especially if you're doing this physically, or the before you had to send a physical application. So if you can do it online, that would be much better. Make sure you don't forget any trips. Like I said, sometimes you don't necessarily see that they stamp your passport. They don't necessarily do that anymore, but there is usually electronic ways to see when you came in and not, right? So CBSA has access to that, and you will sign again that they have access to your history. So might as well try to, of course, sometimes you might forget one that was like maybe a transit thing, but you want to make sure that you are the most accurate with your trips and the days that you have been residing in Canada, of course. And like I said, there are some benefits to come with the citizenship, because this means that you are done with all the processing. This is the very last step. There's no more going forward. That's it. You don't need to think about anything else. So moving forward to the citizenship application is the best thing you can do, because then if you need to travel for a certain time, if you don't need to worry about being in Canada. If you need to, I don't know, maybe first, I've had situations with clients like, my parents are sick, or I have to visit the family, or an emergency came up with my family overseas, so I really need to travel, or maybe I want to take this opportunity for a job, or work remotely, or travel. Everybody has different necessities. So in this case, just make sure that you move forward to the citizenship so that you don't have to worry about anything else. Another good thing about the Canadian passport is that if you're less than 35 years old, then you can also check if you become a permanent resident before this age. As a Canadian, you would also have the access to the work and holiday with different countries. So a lot of people tend to use it to travel and work. In this case, as a Canadian, because once you have the passport, then you have this right. So you might want to check it out. You are allowed to vote. Right now, you can move forward with voting. You can register for voting, and of course, the public sector opportunities that sometimes are limited to citizens. You will not lose your status, so no worries. You don't have to move forward. Like I said, this is the last step of it. That provides you with mobility and also family stability. Now, in this case, maybe you have 5 family members and you say, okay, maybe I am going to move forward with citizenship, but I don't know, my brother doesn't necessarily want to do it right now, or because of trips, he doesn't meet the requirements yet. So you don't have to wait for your family. You can do it by yourself. If you have minors, then you want to check the specifics for them if you're applying along with your minors in this case, right? So, like I said, Canadian citizenship is an exciting and meaningful final step. It does require that you organize and your file with accuracy. And we are here to help you review your eligibility, organize your documents, and submit a complete and well-prepared application. So if you're ready to take this step and you want to book a consultation or initial assessment, email us at info@globalopp.ca, and we are happy to help. And of course, if you want to learn or be in touch with us through different lives or seminars, you can go to our website, www.globalopp.ca. You can go to the event section, and we have there's some events are in Spanish, some in English, and we talk about different things that could be for people already in Canada, people outside of Canada, family sponsorships, super visas, so just check out everything that we have coming up, or you can just go to our YouTube channel and watch things that we've already presented. So thank you very much for being here. I hope this information helps, and I'm glad that you are moving forward to the final step, which is your citizenship. And thank you for being here. Hope you have a good rest of the day and a wonderful week. My name is Mildred, and we are happy to help here at Global Opportunities.
Well, thank you, Mildred, for all the information, as always. For those people that they want to see seminars, usually they're in Spanish, actually. Yesterday, we were in the University of Caribe in Mexico. We were also in CME for Costa Rica. And we have quite a few seminars already done during the year. Usually, we have 1 or 2 seminars per week. And we have our lives. Myself, I have Monday and Wednesday, and Mildred has one also on Monday, but usually sometimes we do on Fridays these lives also in English for people that are English speakers or people that are Spanish speakers, but they want to see information also in English. So we will see you next week, Monday 11:30, myself, then Monday at 5 p.m. Mildred, and Wednesday too. Thursday we also have, like yesterday, double. We have 2 seminars on Thursday. So if you wanna maybe have a look in our website, www.globalopp.ca, for more information and also for the seminars coming up. So thank you so much for being here. My name is Luis Garnica. Hopefully we can meet you one day. If you wanna contact us, you can contact us directly to our email, info@globalopp.ca. Thank you so much. Bye for now.